We are going live in a few seconds. And we are officially live on your YouTube channel. Okay, and now tell everybody on your Facebook channel. Awesome. Okay, well, we've got our chat up. We've got our Zoom. I think technology is on our side today.
Okay.
And we'll go from there. So, hi, everybody. My name is Joshua Young. I'm going to be hosting this 1 hour and maybe a little bit of change live with Psychic Astrologer Deborah Young. It's not her first live, but I'm very excited because it's our first live on her channel, on her YouTube channel. So it's a dedicated live video conversation all about 2023 in a lot of ways. So welcome, Deborah.
Thank you so much. I like your room.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, most of I have it sectioned off into, it's probably just all digital NFTs or something. So let's get started with a question somebody asked in your Facebook group. We will do a Q&A later for those who are going to be connecting to the live chat on YouTube. But for now, we're just going to do one quick question because it was kind of a significant question because I think it's a trending astrological question from what I understand. So someone asked, is this supposed to be the year for Aries? Does Aries rule this year?
Every year is an Aries year, when it comes to
yeah, well, okay, fair enough.
What year is not an Aries year? The reason that was probably, posted, I don't know where, that was sourced or anything, is that Jupiter, the planet Jupiter, just moved back into Aries. Jupiter is expansive and amplifies anything that he touches. He expands everything he touches, the planet of so-called good luck. And it's, he's going to be in Aries only until May. Let me see, May the 16th, I believe. May the 16th. And also Saturn is, it's a really good start of the year for Aries, the Aries sun sign. Bear in mind, your chart is complex, sacred mandala. There's other planets that may clash and so forth with the rest of the chart. But in terms of the Aries sun sign, they will have some, a lot of us will have these kind of quick, unique opportunities that seem to come out of nowhere and inspire confidence in us to move forward, step into our courage and our bravery. So in that way, absolutely, it's good, for Aries in general, but it's also, good for Gemini, and it's also good for some Leos and some Sagittarians and some Aquarians. Now, another plus for the Aries is that there's a nice supportive energy from Saturn that gives you kind of a clear path forward. But that would only be available really for people that are born from about April the 13th through to April 20th. But there is another planet also that's in play for people born April 13th through to April 20th, and that is the planet Pluto, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. So it's a big year for Aries, no question about that. Do they rule the year? Again, when do they not? It's there's many other factors involved. So we can't just say in a blank way that, oh, this is Aries year in the way that it was at least written.
Yeah, this kind of always goes back to the same, not warning but notice that people really need to know their individual chart and need to work with an expert, exactly. a strong expert psychic astrologer who can really find the details because that's where the devil is.
Yeah. For example, Jupiter will make some great connections in my chart, but it also makes a stressful connection to my moon at one point. So it's, it's a bit more complex. But Jupiter is, especially in the sign of Aries, really encourages us to step into our courage, our bravery, our, just taking that chance and moving forward and allowing any kind of fears or doubts, self-doubts and so forth to kind of fade in the background. So we leap ahead there. So in that way, I love Jupiter Aries. It's fiery, it's idealistic. And again, it encourages us to step into our natural state of courage and bravery.
Good points. Okay, so if you've had that question or you've, seen it around on the internet, that's it. Yeah. That's the answer. So I'd like to kind of jump right into 2023, and especially start off with, I think starting off in any year with planetary shifts is probably a pretty important thing to do.
Right.
And there's some, from my understanding, there's some that happen that happen every 29 years. There's one that hasn't occurred in 248 years.
Mhm. Yeah, this year is such a pivotal year, but we'll maybe backtrack and begin with tomorrow. The planet Mercury goes retrograde. A lot of people that know even like a few crumbs of astrology, goes into the horrors of Mercury's retrograde. However, Mercury will go retrograde conjuncting Venus, which means a lot of us have been in fight or flight mode. We've forgotten our happiness. We've forgotten that we can be happy, and but with Mercury and Venus conjunct like that, it's going to, any Mercury is currently in Capricorn. It's going to be in Capricorn till about February the 11th. And Mercury in Capricorn is all about setting our goals. What goals do we want? Now, tomorrow, when it connects with Venus, we engage with our heart. It's one thing to our mind, okay, I want this goal, this goal, this goal, but we connect with our heart. And is this goal good for my heart? So those two are connected just tomorrow, and then we move forward with it. But one of the things I like, even though, yes, we're going to have all kinds of snafus with the Mercury retrograde in terms of tech, and we have to be, a Capricorn rules government, so I am concerned with cybersecurity breaches in government systems, no question. However, Mercury and Capricorn, we have all kinds of time to set our goals. The longer a planet stays in a sign, the more significant it is. And so rather than the usual 3 weeks that Mercury would be in Capricorn, we have it for an extended period of time. So we can think and dream and consider, okay, what are our goals moving forward? And with tomorrow, a special emphasis on engaging our heart in that process.
That makes a lot of sense. And is there more you want to talk about regarding with engaging your heart in the fight or flight? Because I really feel, especially since COVID and the past few years, I mean, I almost feel like the engagement with heart has been, we've been less connected and we've been more just on fight or flight. What are the sort of lessons regarding connecting with your heart and letting go of fight or flight, especially during Mercury retrograde, that we can, any tips or tricks or anything?
Yeah, Mercury retrograde, a lot of people will, link or pile on things that they think are Mercury retrograde, right? And it was like, this is not a Mercury retrograde situation. And Mercury retrograde doesn't, connect necessarily with heart. Venus is the planet that is primarily tasked with heart, as well as the moon, your birth moon. That's where we form our deep rooted connections is through our moon. But Venus on New Year's Eve, or New Year's Day rather, the actual chart for New Year's, I'm just going to bring it up if I can. Venus, the planet Venus, is also in Capricorn, and it's plugged into Pluto, which it's only again there for a day, but it does it has somewhat of an influence throughout 2023 that it's now time to what hard work do we need to do? How do we let go of past emotional attachments, and how do I transform my heart moving forward? And so it's a big energy. It's a transformative energy. Certainly we can expect some powerful art to come from this particular transit as well. But it's all about transforming your heart. And it's and knowing that you are already love in a way. You are already love. And, you're always looking outside yourself for that love. So this is about connecting with your own heart. And the power of that, the incredible power of that.
Is there any advantage to the fact that I think you said before when we were talking January 3rd, Venus is going into Aquarius. Does Aquarius help? Does it help people see that and connect with their heart stronger?
Yeah, Venus moving into Aquarius is, certainly a lovely time for, recognizing that friendship, Aquarius is the sign related to friendship, and that friendship is the foundation of any relationship, that you have to be buddies. You have to be friends with your partner. Venus in Aquarius does not like to be in any kind of restrictive relationship. So if somebody's trying to, restrict me in any way, Venus in Aquarius will have none of it. And it's an opportunity to kind of free our heart again from past attachments. And most importantly, the friendship, the piece of the friendship being the foundation to relationships.
Oh, I mean, we always hear that too, as, the stronger, romantic relationships where people say, they're not just my husband or wife, they're my best friend. You see that there is a deeper connection there.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
So is there more you wanted to talk about with looking into Venus in the
No,
next few
Venus,
days?
Venus does move, stays typically in one sign for about 3 weeks or so. And this past year, as much as, a lot of people have been still in survival mode, there's been a lot of coupling in 2022. I've seen some really lovely situations where, and when you see the there's like, you guys are good. You're connected. You're going to bond and stay bonded, basically. So that's been really, really encouraging. That despite all of this, a lot of people have been able to really find a mate that really works for them.
That's interesting. I've also seen a lot of, maybe it just could be me and my personal chart, but I have seen a lot of births, or not, more pregnancies than births this year. Is that connected?
Not to Venus per se, but to other factors too. And it gives us hope. It gives us hope. The generation. I don't agree with how the generations are divided according to popular, kind of social media. The Gen Xers and the Boomers and all of that. Astrology has a different metric for that. But the people that are babies that are born this year up until at least March, they're part of the architects of the future. But that's been true since 2008. Children that are born from 2008, typically with a break in 2023, they are the architects of the future.
Wow. So it's a lot more than in their youth they will be idealistic. It's literally, no, let's actually turn these ideals into long-term societal changes.
Application, right? We can know a lot, but until we apply it, and they are the ones that will apply some of the visions of the previous generation. So I think that's another, I think that may be another live, Joshua, is talking about the generations according to astrology and what each carries kind of a core trauma, but each carries incredible gifts. They're really powerful gifts that I feel have probably been developed for many lifetimes. So.
That's interesting. And there's so much to it. Like, I mean, there's generational genetics too that are starting to be looked at. And there's just, yeah, that is a whole other live right there. So let's kind of backtrack. So do you want to sort of get into the planetary shifts conversation? Or do you want to go talk about Mars turning direct?
Mars turning direct, you read my mind. Mars has been, retrograde for a while now. It's been in Gemini since August 20th. It'll stay in Gemini till, I think, March 23rd. I'll have to check on that. But it will be turning direct January 12th, which makes me a little nervous, but it also, is good, because when Mars is retrograde, as it has been since October 30th, a lot of our passions wane. A lot of people have found it really difficult to kind of get up and go. And so when it moves, it'll take a while for Mars to speed up. It goes direct January 12th, but it'll take a while for Mars to kind of get going again. It's like if you've been lying in bed for a long time, you just don't get up and run. So it's going to take a little while for Mars to pick up speed. It's interesting. This is for the nerds out there. It does stay. It goes back to 8 degrees, but basically it stays between 9 and 10 degrees till about February, Gemini, till about February the 4th or so. Then it starts to kind of slowly pick up speed. It makes me nervous in terms of world conflict. We can talk about that hopefully later, but it makes me a bit nervous about that. But beginning January 22nd, we will have 3 months of no retrogrades. 3 months. So
is that common?
It happens. It happened this year in 2022 for a few months, but no planets will be retrograde. Some planets go retrograde for 4 to 6 months every year. We have Mercury retrograde, happens 3 times a year. Mars goes retrograde every every 26 months, and Venus goes retrograde every few years. But for 3 months, beginning January 22nd, no retrogrades. So it's kind of full steam ahead. Right? Retrogrades are a karmic energy. They are a time for us to review and reflect and revise, which is pretty well any retrograde. So whatever you've learned, whatever you've reviewed, whatever you've reflected on, now it's time to take action. So
Interesting. Well, and I personally, I like that starting in January. It kind of gives the 2023 a good, you know, let's propel forward, let's move forward, and then
Right.
go from there. It's funny how I've adapted with retrogrades, and I think, I think there's a stage of, I think there's several stages of denial with retrogrades, especially Mercury retrograde, where at first you're like, no, it can't, please no, and then eventually you start to go, okay, well, how do I work with it? And I've loved working with it because as soon as Mercury goes retrograde, it seems like I can tell anybody that my computer's down and they'll believe me more if I need to put work off. So yeah.
Yeah, but there's value to retrogrades without question, and it's again a time to review and reflect. And I love it that it's in Capricorn, because this is truly a time to really think deeply. What are your goals moving forward? What are your goals? What is it that you really want to do moving forward? So we have lots of time to reflect on that.
Yeah, and I find we tend to be a little bit, we need to learn to be more reflective because that does nothing but help us move forward.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know if it's a species issue or if there's just some signs that are very good at it and some aren't. What have you discovered over the years?
In terms of retrogrades, I really relax with them, and I actually really enjoy them in a way. I was born with Mercury retrograde. 18% of the population are, and so I quite enjoy them, and just really relax when there's some kind of a snafu. I just really relax with it. Some are worse than others for me, and as they are, some people, they can slide through a Mercury retrograde and nothing happens to them personally, but other people, they can go through. So it depends. But I kind of enjoy Mercury retrogrades. Really, I enjoy that
See,
reflection. And yeah.
See, I never thought about that. I never thought about births connected with Mercury retrograde, and now I'm thinking like, wow, should people plan to make sure that their birth isn't around a retrograde so that hospital equipment doesn't get all funky and they have to reset it or something? I don't know.
No, it's I am such a I really believe that the spirit is born when the spirit is meant to be born, that the human is born when they're supposed to be born, however that happens, that they're born when they're meant to be born. So I wouldn't muck with that. I think that's not such a good thing.
That's fair.
Yeah, but
That's fair. That's just my paranoia.
right. But to your point, if we know, and this is one of the many, many values of astrology, if we know a certain thing is coming up, whether it's a great opportunity, a great time to move forward, or time to kind of stand down, then we can work with that energy intentionally. We can work with intention. We can cooperate with that energy. So it's one of the reasons I like Mercury retrograde, is that we can, if we know what's coming, we can work with it in a very intentional way. So.
Well, yeah, and what I love about all of it is that it really does also remind you to be self-reflective, but also self-aware and
Mhm.
calculated in really what you truly do want. So
Right.
just being aware of these things coming up and when they're actually happening is also just helps the self-awareness muscles, which I think we need to always be practicing.
Yeah, absolutely. And even this whole thing about new year, new you, which I find personally, kind of insulting. The whole idea of resolutions has always mystified me. I'm like, who ever thought of this idea in the darkest, coldest months of the year? How about restricting yourself? And there's been so many demands on us, and even the new moon or the New Year's chart. And I'm going to share it right now with people.
Oh, great.
Yeah. We see that we have a moon Taurus. A moon Taurus is all about the cozy. It's all about cozy. It's all about how do I, self nurture. And, again, going back to the resolution piece about restricting, and that, I've been getting some ads about losing weight and wrinkles and, and not drinking and not smoking and not all those things. And of course, one thing that occurred to me in the last few days is that when we are beginning our healing journey, as we're healing and we start to like ourselves more, then we want to treat ourselves better. And so any habit that you want to say, I want to get rid of this habit and I want to do this more, when we are liking ourselves better, when we are healing, we naturally want to treat ourselves better. So I'm not going to have that other piece of cake or whatever. So doesn't that make sense to anybody? And resolutions are kind of like, oh, a punishment, or there's something inherently wrong with me, where there isn't anything wrong with you. You're perfectly fine. And the more that you like yourself, the more that you will want to treat yourself better, right?
Absolutely, because you don't need things in the way you needed them before when you love yourself more. You don't need a second piece of cake to feel good. You were feeling good before that cake. You just wanted to know how it tasted, you know, and you just wanted to have a bit of a slice of it. So
no, you naturally want to treat yourself better when you're liking yourself more. Now, in this New Year's chart, I took January 1st, 2023, and I used the natural global chart. This is right at midnight. We have the moon Taurus. It's forming a nice connection to the sun Capricorn, and it's approaching the North Node Taurus, which kind of brings us into another piece here where, you know, the South Node is our habitual patterns and the North Node is the direction we're to move in. And the South Node Scorpio, of course, a lot of paranoia, a lot of judgments around people, a lot of not staying in your own damn lane, kind of energy of a South Node Scorpio, which makes me crazy. A lot of suspicion, mistrust. And our way forward is the North Node Taurus. Earthy determination. Never mind someone else path or what they're doing. Stay in your own lane and do what is earthy and practical. Simplify things. And the moon on the New Year's Day chart is approaching that North Node, so it's kind of powering it up. It's empowering the North Node. Calm, steady determination. Keep looking towards the shoreline. Basically. Another piece here too is that just the day after, the sun is going to make a hard connection to wounded Chiron, basically is about the wounded leader. And it kind of moves us into another piece here where, the days of the white knight, the days of one man ruling, or one person, ruling, is they're going to begin to fade, which is part of the seismic shift. They're going to begin to fade. No more white knight, no more, the wealthy forming the government. So that's part of a big piece of Pluto that we'll talk about in a moment. And then, the New Year's chart kind of speaks of the wounded authority, and that, our old vision of authority is definitely changing. So that's just a tiny piece. We're still into, and if I can keep talking maybe about this.
Yeah, go for it. I have a ton of questions, but keep on going.
Okay. So we have Saturn up here. He's been in Aquarius since March 2020. Guess what happened then? And he's going to stay in Aquarius till March 7th and then move into Pisces, where he hasn't been since 1993 to 1995. He's going to stay in Pisces for, about 2 years. And it's quite a funny place because Saturn is where we get clear. Okay, this is our reality check. We gain clarity. Saturn does show us our limits. If we're overdoing something, he will course correct. But it's Pisces is very, spacious and no boundary, kind of energy. He takes in all the lessons of all the signs concurrently. So this next Saturn in Pisces that begins March 7th of 2023, again, hasn't been around for 28 years. And in the sign of Pisces, we will gain clarity about what we need for our spiritual path. We gain reality checks in terms of what works for me on a spiritual level. Pisces is the sign most intimately connected with spirituality. So we gain clarity around what we need for our spiritual path moving forward. And then it'll be time to, again, test drive all the lessons we've learned over the last, if you were born before 1993, all the lessons that we've learned, from 1993, 1995 onward. So it'll be a big time, a lot of course, clarity around what we need for some of our institutions like hospitals. That's a whole other segment, certainly. But so it'll be interesting. The people that are born the last 10 days of April, the last, about last week of June, last week of October, and the last week of December, they'll find that it's a nice anchoring energy for them. It's a really nice clarity, anchoring energy. Some of Aries will have that too this year, before. before March 7th. So it's a nice kind of like check-in, but it'll be interesting. It'll be a time for us to make some headway with people that struggle with addictions and people that are unhoused. And it's and Saturn shows us where our responsibility is too. And the responsibility we have to people that are struggle with addictions, people that are victims. Pisces is the sign that rules the Messiah, the visionary, but also the addict and the saboteur. So we gain a lot of clarity around those issues. And oftentimes when one of the big planets, and this is a big planet, changes signs, there's a little bit of a back and forth. Not this time. It moves into Pisces. It stays in Pisces for 2 years.
Wow. And that's, I mean, globally, that should be pretty interesting.
It'll be interesting for sure. It'll be interesting. I feel that there'll be, I know there's a lot of people putting a lot of energy, a lot of heart, a lot of passion in terms of, dealing with people that have, mental health struggles. We're talking, we're losing the stigma around that. And it's, and I feel like there's some other, methods that'll become more mainstream, and it kind of sobers up this hyped up poppy culture that we're in. It really kind of, Saturn sobers things up, and Saturn in Pisces will sober up some of the over the top kind of pop, like capitalism era that we've been in. So
yeah, it's been sort of feeling, I mean, I'm not really sure if I can clarify myself for myself what I'm even referring to, but it has seemed sort of like a strange jambalaya of poppy culture in the past few years. Almost like there's a search for identity.
There definitely has been a search for identity, and there's a few energies that speak to that search for identity. One of them is this Chiron Aries, which has been around for a number of years and is here for not until I think 2026. It's that is the wounded identity. So who am I? I feel this deep wound about myself, so I have to adopt another identity, which, that's not going to get you anywhere, of course. But yeah, it certainly has been in play for sure.
Absolutely. And I just want to do a quick little reset for those who are just joining us now. We're doing our YouTube Live, the first YouTube Live on Deborah Young's channel. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to her channel. Make sure you like every video out there, and make sure you watch them, because even I've found watching previous years where you've talked about, how the planets are going to affect said year, like 2022 and 2021. It's been very eye-opening to reflect on, of course, what you said happened, but at the exact same time, like, how did that affect me? And kind of connect that to future year predictions as well.
Right. It's another feature of Saturn in Pisces is that we are, Saturn is also about responsibility, Pisces spirituality, so that we will gain clarity around that we are the only ones responsible for our spiritual path. We can seek guidance, we can do all kinds of things, but it's up to us to spiritually evolve. And that's definitely Saturn and Pisces. Yeah. So
do you feel there will be a lesser, because I feel like in the past, decade or so, especially, it's been heightened up to have spiritual leaders, having a single person, and also in sort of every industry as well. There's been this person will be the financial spiritual leader sort of thing.
Guru. Yeah.
The guru age. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to be coming out of the guru age for sure. And it's high time. It's kind of the end of the Musk years. If anybody's a fan, that's fine. But it's the time for the White Knight, the Guru. Those are over. And again, it's such an important feature of Saturn and Pisces that we are solely responsible for our own spiritual evolution. That
makes so much sense.
And so that's one of the game changers. And the North Node in Taurus, South Node Scorpio, it's been there since the summer of 2021, and it'll be changing in the summer of 2023, July 12th specifically, back to Aries and Libra. And so that brings in another kind of layer to this turning point year, because this is truly a turning point year. It'll be that's not until the summertime, and we have a ways to go yet with how to work best with the North Node and South Node. I do work usually at one workshop a year on these. They're incredibly,
And
yeah.
oh yeah, and as far as Aries and Libra goes, starting July 12th, that's going to be that way until January 29th, 2025.
January 29th. That's right. January 29, 2025. So it'll be in our best interest to work with those energies. The same way it would be our best interest not to go into the crisis consciousness of the current South Node Scorpio, crisis consciousness, but maintaining that kind of earthy determination, groundedness of the North Node Taurus in Aries and Libra. We'll have to be mindful that we're not too, kind of rose-colored glasses in a way. The South Node Libra can be dependent on other people rather than stepping into your own North Node Aries warriorship. So that's another change is Jupiter will move into Taurus, which is actually pretty good news from May 16th of 2023 to May 25th, 2024. That's going to, again, give more, I feel more, security, a little bit more, maybe food security. We're still in crisis mode, but crisis also births innovation. And that's really important to know that crisis always births inventions. The Halifax explosion, that birthed the blind school and many, many other things. So crisis births innovations. We're still in that cycle, but Jupiter and Taurus will ease that a bit. People will want land and food and gardening and all those good earthy things, right? So some Tauruses will definitely benefit from the Jupiter in Taurus energy for sure, and there'll be some other signs as well but we'll be more looking for those kind of earthy comforts: land, food, security.
It seems like everything that's starting to happen for 2023 and that will happen, it seems like it's preparing us to be, practical, have more clarity in our lives, and essentially ground us. But it sounds like at a global scale.
A global scale, we have yet to talk about Uranus, but we might as well kind of go into Pluto, which is really a big, big newsmaker this year. Now, he has been in Capricorn since 2008, and Pluto is the great transformer. He's going to uproot whatever needs to be uprooted. And of course, we all remember, or some of us remember, the financial meltdown 2008 and all that whole thing. And Capricorn rules our systems, our financial systems, our government systems, our political systems. It's a big deal. Pluto moving through there. I remember back in the 80s when Pluto was in Scorpio. I have found this Pluto transit really difficult, to really, I know it needs to be uprooted. I know our systems need to be uprooted. We need to live in a more egalitarian society. I know it needs to happen, but it's been hard and it's been harsh. And we've seen bullies. Pluto does rule bullies. It rules tyrants. It rules terrorism. That those people have been exposed. That they live among us. And it's the wealthy leading the government. The last time. And so Pluto moves into Aquarius March 23rd and is only there till June 11th. So we get a peak. We get a peak of how Pluto in Aquarius is going to behave when it fully moves in January 2024 for 20 years. So Pluto is, it stays around each of the signs as long as it needs to stay around. But so in the sign of Aquarius, this whole, kind of capitalism will start to dismantle. And again, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was 1778 to 1798. And it was at that time that we formed our current view on people in power and wealth and finances and so forth. So our current systems, were based on the viewpoint of there was a lot of revolutions at that time. And now we're going back there and we're dismantling all the systems that have so-called worked for us, but haven't worked for us from those 248 years ago.
Well, I find that fascinating because if it was that time, technologically we were right with it. That was before the industrial age really literally happened, but also those systems we kept in place during a whole new age of civilization that was not connected to the systems we created.
Right. Right. So these Pluto, so between March and June, we get a hit of what that's going to, be like. We got the first hit in 2008, financial meltdown, and all these big companies that were kind of built on nothingness, right? So Pluto and Aquarius, the goal, we can say, of Pluto and Aquarius is for a more egalitarian society. But there's so many imbalances, and we're becoming obviously more aware of these, great imbalances. It's something that is, those are going to be uprooted. And again, it gives a more, one man rules all will not apply. Now, the changes will happen slowly, but when that first hit comes, we're kind of woken up to what this cycle is going to be like. So it's huge, huge, huge.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think initially, especially with technology and social media, what happened initially was, I think governments and big businesses just went, oh, this is great because we'll see total transparency of the people. We get to capitalize off that and use that. And then once the people realize they can do that for governments and businesses, they didn't like it so much. And so they're starting to become, like, I would say in the past few years, I've been astonished where it felt like anybody that's creating a major crime almost can't get away with it. No matter what, if it's financial or, or anything, it's almost impossible to get away with it. And part of that is that kind of transparency. So, I'm not really sure how that relates, but that pinged a spark in my brain about that.
Yeah. And it also, obviously goes into, gender equality, all equality with the Pluto and Aquarius. And again, we get a big hit of that March to June, boom, 2024. So everyone has their eye on this and how this is going to behave, because even though we know what it's going to be doing in kind of broad stroke kind of way, as astrologers, we don't have any lived experience with this. Nobody does. I don't know anybody.
Everything's the first time.
Yeah. We have lived experience in how Saturn and Pisces will behave. We have lived experience in terms of other changes that are there and happening, but we don't have any lived experience on Pluto, which is a big thing. Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's really hard to call someone from 200 years ago and ask them,
hey, what's up? And of course, Aquarius ruling planet, one of Aquarius ruling planet is Uranus, and Uranus remains in Taurus this year. It's been there for a few years. It'll remain there for a while. And Uranus in Taurus is, again, shipping disruptions, food insecurity, financial. I do feel that this will be the year that crypto comes back, by the way, in a very bold, crazy way. So it's interesting. So Uranus will remain in Taurus for another 3 years, I believe. But so it's interesting. Some of these big seismic societal changes that happen with Pluto and Aquarius will be influenced by Uranus and Taurus, where, I hate throwing out food, as you know, but I was throwing out food after Christmas. And, you think of people that are hungry, so more equal food distribution, all of that is coming down the pipes, but it's going to take a while for Pluto and Aquarius to do what it needs to do. But it's showing humanity in general. Aquarius rules humanity, rules, equality. It will show us humanity has to transform, basically.
Wow. So it sounds like in June we should be doing a live, like mid-June, just to kind of, almost like, sports commentators. Yeah.
It would be a good time because we'll be then really seriously talking about the node shift too that begins in July. So that's a really good time. Those node changes, I was kind of dreading the one that we're in right now because of the paranoia and the mistrust and the judging and the not staying in your own damn lane, kind of energy. I was kind of like dreading that. But, we're working with it. I'm trying to stay in the North Node Taurus energy. I've seen how that works and it's kind of miraculous. So it would be good to, how can we work well with this upcoming shift in July? And how was your first early experience of Pluto in Aquarius? Like, what was that like for you? What's it for the world? So, yeah.
Well, and especially the world. We have questions about things like the housing market, stocks and things like that. But it's Yeah, it's very fascinating. I just wanted I have a question about the nodes, but before that, I wanted to quickly mention the. It seems like in the past few years, especially with celebrities, and we won't name names necessarily, but it seems like there's been quite why are you even doing this when that's not even your thing? Not just that we know you of, but it's not even your expertise. There seems to have been a slight tease or addiction in the past few years of well, let me try this completely different thing. And then boom, controversy kind of happens. It doesn't even happen in their own field of expertise. It seems they just go to a completely different one. Has there been anything kind of global that is the reason, or is that just individual charts don't know how to
It
stay
would,
in their own lane?
yeah, I feel some of that would be individual charts, but it kind of goes back to that identity piece as well, right?
Right.
And sometimes yes, not staying in your own lane, for sure. And when you're not staying in your own lane, you lose your own energy, you lose your own power. I mean, you are giving away your energy for free. You're giving, and it's considerable. We are powerhouses, and here we are just carelessly giving ourselves away when we don't stay in our own friggin' lane. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when it's yeah, and it's just kind of crazy because if you are using your energy towards your purpose, it will refuel. It comes with an automatic
Yep.
charging station.
Yep.
But moving into the other areas because of say ego or you're in yourself know too much, big issues.
Yeah.
So yeah, for can I ask for the new for any newbies that are learning astrology, they may have taken a few classes here and there. Is there any kind of information? Because we've talked about north and south nodes for years, and I've really felt their effects, their massive effects, and being conscious of them and not. Is there any parting advice you want to give newbie astrologers or people learning about them?
There's a number of books out there on them, and there is there's also a medical piece to the nodes as well, which I've been fascinated with and have been applying for the last 30 years. I've been practicing. For example, I know I've been in my south node because my elbow, I've got tennis elbow.
Mm.
There I am, right in my south node. But I don't give myself a hard time. Remember, we've all been through a lot, so we give ourselves a little bit of a break. We don't go into a corner and beat ourselves with a bat or anything. Search for some good books. And there is I think it's the astrology podcast is featuring a medical astrologer talking about the nodes. That's coming up. So you just kind of Google that. It'd be pretty easy to find and listen to different
No,
podcasts. Yeah.
yeah, because there's a lot of exciting information and research going out there when it comes to the north and south nodes. The medical side to it, I didn't even think about, but that would be quite interesting.
Very interesting for people that are born in your years, your South Nodes and Pisces. People that have that, they're just very sensitive to contaminants, to additives and chemicals. So they're like super sensitive to that. And there's a whole lot more to say about that, but we better not go down that track.
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole right there.
Yeah.
It's
That is
yeah.
and
So
South Nodes can be rabbit holes.
oh well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Actually, that's kind of a joke on the south node right there. But yeah. So should we? Do you want to kind of shift into talking about kind of the major stuff as far as finances, housing market, food insecurities, or is there any more you want to kind of go about when it comes to the planetary shifts?
Those are all huge. The all of it is huge. We have the eclipses, of course, which first one will be April 20th. That kind of sets up some other energies. Those are all huge. Saturn changing signs. Jupiter changes signs once a year. It's still, significant, and the Pluto shift is huge. That's why it really is a turning point year. Is just the Pluto energy alone is a turning point year where it's like collectively, we're waking up to what absolutely needs to be transformed about humanity and about equality and freedom and to show up as yourself. What do you have to offer the greater collective? It is not about you, it's about we. It's not me, it's we. And it's really this kind of shared experience of it's a shared experience. So that's a really significant piece. And the nodes changing is very big as well. There's a lot of different factors in there for sure.
So it sort of seems like, despite your sign, there's different, ways to kind of go about it, of course. But it seems like despite your sign this year, groundedness, knowing yourself, understanding how you relate to the world as opposed to being too in yourself, especially after years of being fight or flight, which kind of forces us into sort of a self, too much. I don't want to say selfishness, but fight or flight is a little selfish.
It is. The energy becomes very insular. And this is in a way, this is a year to be brave enough to find your joy. Brave enough to find your joy, that you are essential to the greater world, but that it's about the we, it's about the collective. And Saturn was in Aquarius since again March 2020, which was kind of showing us trying to this is the world we live in. What are we going to do about it? Pluto takes it to a whole other level in the sign of Aquarius. But it is about being brave enough to find your joy, knowing that your path is unique and you are you, and you show up as you, and that you are to play with the others as well. And if you find yourself trying to judge somebody, step back, pause, get curious about yourself too. It's not about, this is wrong and this is right and whatever. Get curious about the shadow parts of yourself. Curiosity makes it much lighter. We're not kind of, I need to fix, there's nothing to fit, it's about getting curious about yourself and, why do I have that attitude? And getting curious about others as well. And getting curious about other people in terms of, why are they judging? Or why are they this way or that way? But getting curious. And it's certainly about kindness as well. We have to learn to be kinder to ourselves and kinder to other people. North Node Taurus says we have to be calm and we have to be kind. We don't want to be South Node Scorpio, harsh and all, judgy. So.
Yeah, it seems like in the past, a few years, there's been sort of a policing of fixing. It's not even trying to just fix. It's been basically like a SWAT team comes in and people try to, no, this is exactly how we're going to do things. Maybe it was kind of a misguided, I don't know how to put this, but maybe people were sort of tapping into what the energy will eventually be, but not the right way, when it comes to, all these big positive societal changes, but they were in fight and flight mode. And, it was just, it didn't feel like in the past few years, like the right time to try to do any societal change.
Even though, we're kind of tasked to do that, but maybe we can switch to Q&A. Do you have any questions there?
Yes, definitely. We have, let me take a look here over on my other screen here. Well, yeah, let's get into the finances right away. Do you think, this is from a Debbie, not a Deborah, but a Debbie, just FYI. So she asks, do you think the dollar will be replaced with digital dollars?
I can see that coming, not this year, but I can see that coming. Yeah,
I think to me and I'm saying this to more or less as a question, but it seems to me that the crypto was sort of just meant to be inevitably the MySpace of its time, where it was like to teach people what decentralization could be, what we could have, and maybe it'll stick around and just keep transforming and evolving.
I feel it's going to be reinvented next year, actually, when they came out, because currency is a Taurus thing. Currency is a Taurus thing. When crypto first came out, Uranus, which is the great revolutionary, the great awakener, the great liberator, was in Aries. And when it came out of that, bad timing. This is just not the time for this. I don't know anything about it, really don't want to know anything about it, but it was the wrong time. Now Uranus is in the sign, the great revolutionary liberator is in the sign of Taurus, has been for a few years, which is part of the reason why it's crashed and it's done this and it's done that. But I feel it'll be reinvented next year. I would see that in around, later May, June, and the fall of 2023. So. Yeah.
Interesting.
But digital, it
And
won't happen overnight, but and I'm not sure if I'm even in favor of it, personally speaking, but I can see, some places moving in that direction before Uranus moves out of Taurus. But yeah,
oh, okay,
yeah.
good point. And there have been predictions of a type of a crash that comes this year. It seems like a lot of the financial people are referring to kind of a more softer crash. It's not 2008, it's more 2009. What have you looked into and what have you seen?
Yeah, I could see March. There's other factors, of course, such as the war in Ukraine, the
Which
China
we'll get to for sure.
influence. Yeah, it's so there's other factors. I feel there could be definitely some wobbling, late February, early March, but I don't feel we're going to get there. There was a few planetary patterns that we're speaking about, like recession. One of them is now split up. So, I mean, some people are really, really struggling. I feel that there will be some ease later in 2023.
Oh, is there any hint as to where that ease may come from? Is it just governments kind of re-protecting people and how it's
Yeah,
distributed? I mean, I'm not an economist, but
right. Again, governments, that kind of nanny state and uh, the daddy prime minister or daddy president is going to be a thing of the past. Again, not in
right.
2023, but we're going to see absolute signs of it for sure. So that kind of daddy protecting me, mommy protecting me, goes against my Aquarius nature in general, that independent. But no, I feel that there's, a lot of values are changing, and that's a big piece. I'll be talking about that in Miami, actually. I'll be talking about values I'm going to Miami, give a talk to, a really amazing company that's doing so many things ethically right. It's in terms of environmental and a whole lot of things, but I'll be talking about values, and values are changing. Some of that is Uranus and Taurus. Taurus is connected to values, North Node in Taurus, Uranus and Taurus. So there's a lot of like value changing in there. Is it of more value for me to go into debt for a big car, or you know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of value shifts and changes. Some of that would contribute to more financial ease in general, but it's, I'm hopeful with the Jupiter and Taurus energy that moves in mid-May, for the rest of 2023, that there would be more ease.
Yeah, and I feel COVID probably helped in a way, just really let people prioritize what's truly important to them. And and we saw that with the amount of people not going back to jobs that weren't
Yeah.
respecting their livelihood or their time.
Yeah, 100%. We have more lessons to learn in that regard, in terms of not valuing our frontline workers and expecting people to work in very toxic environments and pay them nothing. That's going to be part of the Pluto and Aquarius bit. There will be some kind of revolutions for the heart of humanity.
That's and speaking the heart of humanity, one country that's gripped our hearts, to say the very least, is Ukraine. What do you see for? I mean, to be quite frank, I'm kind of interested in. We know Ukraine's going to do everything it's been doing and more, but I'm more interested personally to find out about what's gonna be of Russia after 2023. So I guess it's a two-part question.
I would say Russia more 2024. Russia is kind of an Aquarius country, and with Pluto fully moving into Aquarius in 2024, then that'll be a whole thing with Russia. There's a few times I'm really concerned about Ukraine. One is the day that Mars goes direct. The first Gulf War, I predicted the very day that there'd be an invasion due to a similar energy. So I'm concerned. I'll stay concerned until the end of February. Well, more than that. And then I have the chart for Ukraine. If there's any nerds up here, I can put it
Definitely.
Up.
And just to jump in, and for those just tuning in, Mars is turning direct January 12th. So it's actually pretty soon.
Yeah.
That Mars turns direct.
Yep. It's and while it's still retrograde, again, we can retrograde, reflect, revise, review. We can reflect and where do we want to direct our passions? That's part of the Mars rules passions, Mars rules actions. And while it's retrograde, we can review and reflect, where do we want to put our precious energy? Where do we want to put our passion? Like, where do we want to point our arrow? And it's only going to be there for another, 2 weeks and change. So, spend some more time kind of reflecting on that. This is the chart for Ukraine. And I'll just put it up there. And if there's any nerds, they can get my mouse around this other screen. There we are. I'm
so excited to see this chart, actually.
Now this is based on August 24th, 1991, 5:31 p.m. in Kyiv. And it's there was a previous birth time of 6 p.m. And I found another, hopefully exact birth time. There is, so this is, pretty serious. Saturn is going to be dead on the moon in Aquarius pretty soon. So the suffering of the general people is, obviously incredibly heartbreaking. There is, it's interesting. They're kind of still waking up to their own authority for sure. But I'm concerned about March. I'm concerned about March 7th in particular with Ukraine. And then I'm concerned about the fall of 2023. So there's no quick chapters. This is not a quick read. There will be, more heartbreak and more, incredible restrictions. But I feel that there will be some movement next year towards, striking, some kind of a deal there. There's some good news too. I like later March, early April. So there's, it's like reading a novel where you're in this very sad piece, very, will they survive? And then you're into the next chapter and, oh, good news. Here's some, more benefit. I like late mid-May to the end of May for Ukraine. So, I feel that they'll triumph, but it's definitely a long game.
Yeah, and I mean, such a cost in every which way. So if you were able to, this is a question I probably should have prepared for because it's kind of a big question. But if you were to be able to sit down with President Zelensky and let him know about 2023, is there anything you would like to say to him one-on-one?
Well, I tell him to remember to stay in his North Node Libra, but he's definitely using the skills, and our South Nodes is loaded with talents and gifts. His South Node Aries, he knows how to be a warrior. He knows how to be brave. Heaven knows he knows how to be brave. I don't want him to be too brave, but he knows how to be brave. He's pulling out all the stops. I mean, it's pretty insane, what he's doing. It's, yeah.
I think from a military perspective, sorry, go.
I would remind him to at least direct some energy and focus towards solutions.
Right. Because if we think we've been in fight or flight, during COVID, try having your entire country attempted to be invaded. It's really hard.
Right now, Mars is going through the fourth house, which is, your home is being attacked and attacked and attacked. That does move out of there near the end of February. But Saturn, which, favors and supports certain signs for certain dates within those signs, Saturn does make a very challenging connection to the early Virgo sun off the Ukraine chart. But again, there's some good news after that as well. So I feel like there'll be some, negotiations that may fail, but then are revived later in 2023.
Okay. I mean, it's optimistic. I mean, I think everyone wants it to end as quickly as possible, but
kind of, but it's an ongoing thing. And the thing with Ukraine, I mean, there's other countries that are absolute crises, Afghanistan, Sudan, they're in absolute crises. But the thing with Ukraine, and all of it matters, but with Ukraine, they are kind of leading the way in terms of I shouldn't say leading the way, but they are, this whole situation there, this whole war there is kind of informing part of our future moving forward. So
Right. Well, it's amazing how it's affected international relations, and a lot of things that are happening, are going to be permanent. Things that other countries relied on Russia for will no longer be.
Right, right, right. But the story around Russia, I mean, the story is always there in Russia, but, it's something that that's more into 2024, 2025, more about them. But there is, the Saturn coming close to the moon now is just incredibly harsh for the Ukrainian people, incredibly harsh.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is. It is what it is there. It now, switching kind of just badly segueing to another topic. The housing market crisis has been really something that's starting to really, there's finally kind of a larger light on it, I think now more so than years past. Has there
Right.
been anything you've looked at regarding that?
That again goes back to Uranus, which, Uranus is shock and awe, but it's also where we become really inventive. It's all of that. And in Taurus, it rules basically our basic security needs, which our basic security needs obviously includes food and includes housing. So we are going to get more innovative in terms of housing and food distribution, and that's why there's going to be one of the most popular pastimes is going to be definitely gardening. It's in
Oh yeah.
country. It's but it's there will be some ease, I feel, with housing, but it is absolutely a crisis. I feel it's still going to take a few years for that to get a little bit better. Next year there will be some easing when Jupiter moves into Taurus in mid-May, but it's still going to take some time for sure. And we may
Okay. So I
go
mean,
back to some of the multi-generational houses, like how I grew up. My grandmother lived with us, so some of those things will come back. The last time Uranus was in Taurus was the 1930s, if that gives you any indication.
oh wow.
Mid 30s through to, I think around 33, 34, Uranus moved into Taurus. So we had food insecurity. We had people that were homeless, and this whole cycle of, rinse and repeat that humanity tends to do. Like we had this crisis back this long ago. Oh, how about now again? So rinse and repeat. We're pretty well done with it. I feel that's part of the Pluto Aquarius story as well, which again, we have a peek off that people are done with that. Basic security needs, Uranus, food, housing. It's incredible, especially in countries like Canada or the US, there's absolutely no need for it. There's absolutely no need for this. There's no need anywhere.
Oh.
And again, everyone, and I feel in a very optimistic way with Pluto and Aquarius in the future, again, it is going to be there for 20 years. Everyone will have a plot of land, and that's kind of all we need, a plot of land, and then from there we can do and grow and be whoever we need to be. But we need that basic energy.
Yeah, I feel especially in places like, of course, the big cities kind of have always done this, but it feels like I've seen this even in Halifax and in Vancouver, and I have nothing against landlords per se, but there does feel like there was a shift to get as much land from people as possible, and personal ownership of land has been, it has been the hardest it has been. So. Yeah, but I feel it seems like landlords really stepped up their game in the past few years.
Right. And there's going to be a tremendous amount of migration, like people moving within their own country, people moving out of country. That's going to continue for a while yet, and that factors into housing prices and housing crises as well. So there's a lot of migration. Some of that due to climate change, which Pluto, still in Capricorn, is in the Virgo decan, and Uranus in Taurus is now in the Virgo decan, which is about health and environment. Basically, those are the two leading things that are actually, interesting. Do we have any more questions? Because we probably should wrap up soon.
Yeah, I think we'll get into the wrapping up stage. I'm going to ask: is there anything about romance within 2023 that we all should know about, or is that always individualistic?
That's really individual. But it also, again, the changing values factors into relationships. The changing values factor into what work you want to do. you have to share core values is an incredibly important piece of any healthy relationship. So relationships begin, but because of those changing values, we will see new coupling and maybe some uncoupling, but it's really dependent on the individual chart. Like it depends on the individual chart. Yeah.
Well, if everyone's getting all grounded and growing their own gardens, it looks like I'm going to have to change my profile to hippie or something. I don't know. We'll see how my Tinder survives 2023. I think. Oh wait, we might have one more quick. Okay, yeah, let's squeeze this question in. I really like this. Thank you, Dorothy. What about the new innovations in science and energy? Will they stick? Now, I really love that because of the whole fusion, fusion technology that we've just, and for those that don't know, our biggest problem in humanity has been able to create fusion where the net gain is more than the energy put into it. And we've just broken, well, I didn't do it. You didn't do it. None of us did it. Some scientists that were genius did it. And we've now actually proven that it can be done. So the conversations from even the most pragmatic scientists that we know in the celebrity world are the most humble predictions are huge and earth-shattering and life-changing. So will innovations like that, or maybe even just electric cars in general, no matter the company, will all of those things stick? Will they change?
What's
going to happen?
That will absolutely stick 1,000%. And that's part of the Pluto and Aquarius thing, where it offers more equality, right? Because rich nations had oil and gas, all of those features. They won't have that as a source of revenue. So it equals the playing field, basically. And that's kind of part of the big message of Pluto and Aquarius is it equals the playing field. But Pluto does rule energy sources like fusion. It is nuclear. Pluto rules nuclear, big sources of energy. And so Pluto moving into Aquarius, 1,000% it sticks. And it is really going to equalize. It's going to be a big equalizer in the world because I'm not having that kind of power over you because I don't have the power any longer, right? So it's absolutely an equalizer, no question. In terms of cars, electric cars, they're definitely not going to stay at all. But that is something that won't change till Uranus is in Gemini, which is a few years out yet. And then we'll see a big shift with how we get around, how we travel. There'll be a big shift that does not involve electric cars.
Well, that's good.
I've never been really a fan. 2026, Uranus moves into Gemini, but these big kind of discoveries, absolutely, they're going to stick with power, 100%. And certainly, even like food distribution, there's going to be something while Uranus is in Taurus till 2026 that changes the game that way as well. So it falls under that banner, that headline of Pluto and Aquarius, more quality, right?
Right. And that's a whole, I think we could do an entire live of technology because it seems like that's becoming a brand new thing. And the very last thing I kind of wanted to touch on, because we just touched on it a bit, is the extreme weather we've been going through. And do you see, how optimistic or, pessimistic are you when it comes to climate change and everything in the next 10 years and whatnot?
It's been,
and especially in 2023, is there going to be more extreme weather?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's inevitable. It's been really difficult, for us to grasp and the whole, climate change. And that's because it is so vast. The human brain can grasp that this is a book and you learn how to read, but something like that's big and something kind of invisible, even though in some countries it is absolutely not invisible, but it's been really difficult for us to grasp. It is the biggest issue for sure. No question about that. biggest issue.
Do you,
It's going to be some scary storms, no question about that. It's something that there's people that are absolutely waking up to it. There'll be more people waking up to it. And will there be innovations to work with it? Yes, absolutely. And again, it will be part of that changing value piece as well. Do I need fast fashion? No, I don't think I do. Can I recycle this blouse or this sweater? Absolutely. Pluto in a way is going to blow up consumerism, is going to blow up, I shouldn't say blow up consumerism, but the kind of consumerism we have now, that people suffer for us to have certain things, and that it contributes to climate change and so forth. So some of that is that shift of values that I was talking about too. So our consumer habits will change. What we want or desire to live in will change, and at the same time, there will be some innovations. 100%. Carbon capture, for example, is a huge thing. There's going to be some major innovations that help, but some of that comes down to us taking the steps, and it's hard because, especially in North America and most of Europe, we're kind of lazy. It works for us, but yet it really doesn't work for us.
No, it doesn't work for us as a race at all. But again, when we are 18,000 steps away from seeing the reality of what what the technology came from and how it affects. Yeah. Well, I thank you all so much for joining us in our first live for Deborah's YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. This most likely will not be our only live, that's for sure. And there's a lot of 2023 to get through. So if you're just joining in, definitely start watching the video from the beginning, because I'm sure we covered it. And do you have any final thoughts on 2023?
I'm really amazed that I'm living through these times. And I want everyone to kind of think about that it is such an honor to be living through these times. These times will be written about for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. These are mythic times. They're big times. And that, my spirit, my soul, whatever you want to call it, thought I was brave enough to be here. So we are,
good way to look at it.
Right. And so I'm really honored to be here. No matter how, things are, I'm really, really, and I want everyone to think about their dignity, their human dignity, start treating other people with dignity, and that we are sharing this experience together, and we all have something to contribute. Each one of us has something to contribute. So
that's so important to keep in mind going into the new year. So thank you so much, Deborah. And I can't wait to talk with you again.